What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Breaking the Plane, episode 34. We're back at it. I'm your host, Burge, as always, sitting here with my good friend, Mr. Hogan. How are you doing today? Don't give me that look.
Good friend. Good friend.
Yeah.
Oh man, if only our listeners could hear the crap you say before the podcast and you're sitting here calling me a good friend. Anyway, I'm fine. I'm fine. Come on, I gotta try and trigger you, right? That's what you were talking shit
Yeah.
before. I gotta get you going. But anyway, I'm good. Yeah, it's been a doozy of a week since we last did our last episode. But otherwise I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Just daily grind at work. Look forward to our Tuesday night recordings every week. It's a nice way to escape from the real life, right? To get away from the jobs, all the stress goes out the window. We can just do our one thing that we love doing, and that's talking football for all of you listeners out there. But before we get to the football, Hogan,
Yeah,
you want to talk about some basketball? You got a little bit of green going on in the background here while we're
that's
recording
right.
here. You want to talk a little bit about basketball?
I
Make it quick.
do. Oh, yeah, yeah. Shut up. I know you don't care, but I care because our Celtics, our boys in the NBA Finals right now are up 2-0. And hopefully I'm not premature in my celebration here because I don't do that stuff anymore. Not I learned my lesson multiple times. But we are hopefully on the cusp of actually seeing another championship banner being raised in Boston, which would be phenomenal to see because it has been a drought in the last 6 years? Has it been 6 years since we've seen a championship in Boston? I think it was the Patriots, right? 18?
Yeah, I think of that because the Red Sox won in 18, and I think the Patriots won 2018, 2019. I think that's the last one. Yeah.
So it's been a minute. So hopefully the Celtics can keep on rolling, doing what they're doing, and take over. They're going down to Dallas to play Game 3 tomorrow night. We're recording on Tuesday. Wednesday's the game, but even if they get a split down there, I mean, if they can sweep them and take it a 4-0 and just be done with it, I'm more than okay with that. But hey, if they want to win it back in Boston, I'm okay with that too. Just fingers crossed that we hopefully get to see another championship in Boston, which is what we all want to see. But
Are you worried?
unfortunately,
Are you worried about Porzingis's injury?
no, not particularly. I
No.
mean, would I like to have him out there? Absolutely, because he's just been great with the time that he's played in the finals so far. But at the same time, they've played tremendous without him through the rest of the playoffs as well. I mean, it's a nice piece to have at this point. But again, the knock on Porzingis going into the season and when they acquired him was that he was kind of injury prone as it was. And again, this goes back to, I mean, I'm going to rant a little bit here, but this goes back to my big argument that I've been saying for years is that basketball players, for whatever reason, just are bean poles that, they need to put on some muscle. They need to like get themselves jacked up. Like you go back to the days of Shaq and those guys, he was so dominant for a reason because he was a house. And now you got bean poles that jack up 3-pointers every millisecond out there because they want to be Steph Curry. And Porzingis is 7'2" and he's jacking up threes. What are we doing? What are we doing? Anyway, besides the point, Porzingis, I hope you do get healthy because I'd love to see you on the court with the guys down there. But at the same time, you play with the guys you got, regardless of the sport. That's the way it is. Injuries happen, and there's no excuse for any of that. They just got to take care of business and hopefully get it done with.
Absolutely. Next man up mentality, right?
That's right. But again, it's no excuse. And I still don't think Dallas overall as a team can handle Boston with or without Porzingis. So they should, knock on wood, take care of business, bring home a championship. Let's see it.
Absolutely. Another Boston team we want to talk about before we get into the football talk. Boston Red Sox. John Henry's comments basically calling out the fans, saying that we're expecting too much. What are we doing?
What a clown. What a fucking clown. God damn it, you got me triggered. I was trying to trigger you, and now I'm triggered myself because it's just like I hate John Henry. I hate him with a burning passion. This dude is the epitome of fucking clown status. Like, you own one of the most viable franchises in history for across sports, and you're coming out and you're saying that fans expect too much and that you consider the team, what did he say? The team's an asset?
Yeah,
that
he used the word asset.
like
Mhm.
go fuck yourself, dude. Are you shitting me? Like, you're worth how many billions of dollars? I don't know. He's probably a millionaire, billionaire, whatever the fuck he is. The fact is, you have a duty at that point to represent a team that, to the best of your ability. Like, I look across the board and you see, like, even though they suck right now, the Mets owner, he's like phenomenal because he would go out and he would spend a shit ton of money on players to try and like win games. Like, he essentially tried to be the Yankees, like the Steinbrenners of the new age or whatever. But like, you see guys that care so much as owners that put their heart and soul into their teams. And honestly, and this may sound crazy to some people out there, but as a fan, I would rather have an owner that gave a shit about my team and we were unsuccessful than an owner who didn't give a fuck about me or the team and we won multiple championships. I find that insane. I find
Mhm.
that absolutely insane. And it all stems back for me personally that my hatred for John Henry was the fact that they were so willing to just ship out Mookie Betts, who I considered. I mean, I'm not the biggest baseball guy in the world, but like I consider Mookie Betts a once in a generation player. The way he was able to play the game and the way he reinvigorated baseball in Boston, and to just dump him to the Dodgers the way he did for nothing.
Mhm.
All right, you talk. I'm gonna,
He's
like I said,
he,
steam's gonna come out of my ears at this point. So go ahead.
he served his purpose. He came in when he bought the team, got them to the World Series, won a few. Obviously, they were spending money, and all of a sudden, he's got this. He's a sports owner. He's got a portfolio of sports teams, and that's why he refers to the Red Sox as an asset. And for me, that's an absolute travesty, considering the historical value the Boston Red Sox have for Major League Baseball and this country as a whole in terms of athletics. Like, to me, that's just a travesty. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to change. And the only way that people can really get to him, the fans can really fight back, is to stop showing up to Fenway Park, to stop buying jerseys, to stop buying hats, all the merchandise. That's the only way. A full fledged boycott, which is never going to happen. It's unrealistic that that's going to happen, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, the way he's run these Red Sox the past, we'll call it 5 years now. Five
Yeah,
years since
easily.
Dave Dombrowski was run out of town, the GM, and since then they've been trying this whole cost cutting approach, and the fans are expecting too much. What do you think the fans are expecting too much? The fans want you to put a good product on the field so they can be entertained.
Yeah.
If you're not entertained, what's the point? Like, the only appeal to going to a Red Sox game right now is to go to Fenway Park and be in that old stadium. And even that is a stretch now because most of us have all been there. We've all been there, and it's not really a great place to watch a game. The whole point, because of all the obstructed view and the seats and everything, like, it's not a great place to watch a game. But to say you went to Fenway Park, we were on the Green Monster, do stuff like that. Like, that's the appeal. There's no other appeal to me. I think our good friend Tommy Bennett will agree at this point. He's a big baseball guy. We all know Tommy, and he's not happy. And you see those comments again from John Henry, the guy that owns the Pittsburgh Penguins, Liverpool Football Club over in. They were saying the same thing about him over in England. Like, they were all pissed at him. It's like, dude, at some point, like, read the room. But
He
and
won't. He
he
won't.
won't. He
That's the
won't.
sad part because
He's
it's
gonna
just
make money. He's
money.
gonna have to die. He's gonna have to age out and die. I'm not wishing that on him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. Don't take it out of context. But that's the way it's gonna happen. Yeah, throw away the key, Hogan. Don't open your
I'm
mouth.
not saying it because we'll get canceled so quickly. Let's move on to our next subject. I'll get off this real fast now.
Well, we're gonna go to the sport that this podcast is about now. We're gonna go. Tom Brady is coming home to New England tomorrow night. So by the time you listen to this podcast, it will have been yesterday. But the Patriots are hosting the Tom Brady night on 6/12/24. 6 rings for the Patriots, number 12, all that. Seems like it's going to be a pretty cool event. I've been reading up a little bit on it. Lots of former players and teammates of Tom Brady are going to be there. Bill Belichick is reportedly going to be there. They got this whole night of festivities planned with interviewing alumni, everything, all of that. From what I've seen, the logistics for fans going to this event, they're treating it like it's like a game day. Like, that stadium's going to be filled. We were talking a little bit about this before we started recording. Could you imagine the traffic nightmare getting in and out of there to go to this thing? Like, you're not even watching a football game. Yeah, it's cool. Like, I wanted to go to this, logistically, it was just never going to happen. Let's be real. Um, but talking about the event as a whole, it's gonna. I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere, but I'd like to watch it if they're going to stream it on like the Patriots website or something. I think that'd be pretty cool for people who are not going to be in attendance. I don't know. It's putting a closure on the 20-year run that the Patriots had. He's going to be retired. Obviously, Bill Belichick not being the head coach anymore put a lot of closure on that. I just think it's going to be a pretty cool event, and I hope I can watch it. And just from the nostalgia at this point, it's nostalgia. Thinking back on everything that basically brought me into the sport of football, and I grew up with the dynasty. Like I became an adult with the dynasty, so I think all around it'd be a pretty cool event to see. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm interested in general just to see what they have, hitting up their sleeves because obviously you got to go big or go home for a guy like Brady coming back like this,
Mhm.
and obviously the disservice that they did to him with what was it, the home opener last year where
That was so yeah, it was
uh
no good.
we were between us choking to the Eagles like the way we did and everything else. That was like bleh, I couldn't stand that. But no, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, straight off the bat, if they don't retire his number tomorrow, that's kind of like a joke, right? I mean,
It's gonna
it's got to
happen.
come immediately. But yeah, I mean, if Belichick's there, if they get the whole alumni, I mean, hopefully it's not the roast of Brady 2.0. Otherwise, I mean, Brady might be leaving in tears this time. But if they got some good alumni there to have a good old time with it, and there's definitely been some. I've seen some chirps on Twitter and whatnot about people getting hyped for it, and especially a lot of Pats fans that we're familiar with that are just saying like, hold on to something because big stuff is coming. I mean, I'm excited to find out. At the same time, like you said, I'd love to go visit it, but until they change the layout of Gillette Stadium, where it's not just that one stretch of road where
Route
you're
one.
sitting there at a parking lot for 14 hours just to try and get in and out of there. No, thank you. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Mm.
Mercedes Lewis still playing in the NFL. We talk about closing a chapter on a 20-year run in the dynasty. A tight end, Mercedes Lewis, I believe he signed back with the Bears, right? He signed back with the Bears.
Chicago Bears.
19th season in the NFL for a tight end. And he's never been the best tight end in the league or anything like that. But when I saw that he re-signed his contract, I was stunned. There was a period of time too when I think he was with Green Bay, and I was like Lewis. I'm like, is that Mercedes Lewis? I'm like, that dude was playing when I was in like college. Now I'm old.
2006.
Like
2006 was his rookie year in
high
Jacksonville.
school.
So I always think of him as a Jacksonville Jaguar. Like and ironically, I'm shocked that I wish we had talked about this last week when
I know.
John was on the show with us, but like it was just mind-boggling where I saw the article and I'm like, is he like coming back from retirement? Like I'm confused. Like what's happening here? And then I looked into his career and it's like he played with Jacksonville for like ever. Like what was it, like 10 years or something
Mhm.
crazy, and then went to Green Bay for a while, and then I just the fact that it's his 19th season and Jacksonville, please don't come after me. He's been okay. He's not the best. Like, okay. Like I think I looked at his stats and he's like made like one Pro Bowl
One
or
Pro Bowl.
whatever. But I will give him credit where credit is due. The longevity is incredible. I mean, at a non-quarterback, non-kicking position is just phenomenal. It's insane to see somebody play 19 years at a skill
He's
position of anything.
he's gonna be he just turned 39. He just turned 39. And I'm sorry, he just turned 40. I'm sorry, he just turned 40.
Wow.
He
Wow.
played 12 seasons with Jacksonville, 5 with Green Bay, and then he's going into his second season with Chicago. I think it's a shame that the dude never actually won anything, considering how his longevity. And let's be real, like the team he signed with isn't any kind of contender at this point. But yeah, just speaking to the longevity of him playing that position for as long as he has. I mean, he's been hurt throughout his career. I mean, he's missed some time, but I mean, the last 2 or 3 years, he's only missed a couple of games. So
No,
like
it's
that's to me is wild. And again, he's not the biggest pass catcher. He's more of I think, a blocker at this point.
yeah.
Um, doesn't have any thrilling statistical numbers receiving and all that. But at the end of the day, unreal. that he's playing again for his 19th season at the age of 40, and I wish him the best. Let's move on to another tight end who decided to call it quits early. No longevity talk with this guy, Darren Waller of the New York
Boo.
Giants,
Boo.
retires at the age of 31.
Yeah, focus on his music industry or career or whatever the hell the clown's doing. What the
What a
hell?
what a cringe video that was. That was
What
just
is
like,
wrong with this dude? Like between like I don't understand the timeline of Darren Waller, right? So he comes into the league. He's with the Ravens for is a few years, right? They 2 years, okay. So he's with the Ravens, and the potential's there, but obviously a lot of people know about his what was it alcohol abuse issue that he
mm-hmm,
had. So
mm-hmm,
they kind of cut ties with him, and he signs like a last desperate attempt with the Raiders, and they it rejuvenates it. He goes and gets help. He kicks the booze, which is phenomenal, great,
absolutely.
and then goes on a tear. And I'm pretty sure was that one there was like one season. Did he lead the league in touchdowns, or he did something
I don't know
where
if
he
he
was
led
like,
the league in touchdowns, but he had two back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons.
yeah, like he was considered like a top tight end in either fantasy or in the
Yeah, he
league.
fantasy he was. Yeah,
And to see the fall off from where he was there, and I know injuries played a role in that, towards the end of his tenure with the Raiders, but then all the promise in the world going to New York, what was it last year, where New York was coming off a playoff
hmm
year where they shocked everybody, but like, they were rolling on all cylinders with Dayball there, driving that train. And he was supposed to fit right in, be an integral part with, Daniel Jones throwing him the ball, Saquon running and stuff. And it was just, it never materialized. And then to see the shenanigans go down the way it did, where he married the WNBA player, got traded. They got the what was it? They announced they were divorcing like less than a month ago, and then he comes out with a music video, which is just like him singing on auto tune. Like
cringe.
full disclosure for anybody out there who listens to this podcast and also watches me do Twitch. I sang during my stream last night, and I'm pretty sure I sang better than he did at any point in his music video. You're gonna have to post that, let the link, obviously, at some point for our fans to go back and see. And I sang Backstreet Boys, and I knocked it out of the park. Just so if anybody's wondering about that.
We'll
But
let my
anyway,
wife. We'll let my wife be the judge on that one.
oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to get all the scrutiny from her. So at the end of the day, Darren Waller, goodbye. I'm not gonna miss you. Just you ended your career on such a sour clown note for me personally. So don't let the door hit you on the way out. I don't know if you got anything last words of wisdom for him there, Burge.
He helped me win a fantasy championship, and that's about the extent of it. But you got to consider, like, 31. He only played, a handful. Call it 8 years in the league,
Mm,
and he retires. Makes me want to talk about early retirements because that seems to be a pretty common theme nowadays with this generation athlete, where the guys aren't playing as long or holding on as long and letting their bodies just get deteriorated later in in their mid to late 30s, like our age. Like if we were like, I played hockey last night and I'm sitting here walking with a limp because I'm so sore. But I want to get your thoughts on that. Like, do you think there's this is going to continue? And were there any players that have retired recently that have kind of shocked you with how early that they have retired?
yeah, I look at the way that the league is played now, whether it's NFL, NBA, across all the major sports and everything, where I think you're going to see a definitely a higher trend of guys that are willing to call it a career much earlier than we would have anticipated, just because I think the knowledge is there now based off of the injury history, the concussion data. It's There's a lot of guys that you sit there and you say, I can only imagine what we go back to, like, what is it, Bo Jackson, right? Considered one of the greatest running back. Well, you had him on, I think, your top five
I
running
did.
back list,
I
right?
did.
And it's like he only played a handful of seasons in the NFL before that injury took him out of his career. And it's like you'd never want to see a guy's career cut short, but at the same time, if it needs to be cut short, I'd rather see that and him be able to live the rest of his life in his own terms
Mhm.
than, you know, I I apologize, but like Junior Seau, I don't want to see another
Yeah,
situation like a
absolutely.
Junior Seau. It's just it's you don't know what causes these kind of pains for these guys. It's just that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down to. But for me, the biggest surprise retirement, and I know it's an easy one, is Andrew Luck, honestly, because he was a generational talent, was supposed to be the next Peyton Manning, which he very much seemed he was on his way, the way he played the game and the numbers he put up and getting Indy to the playoffs almost single-handedly because he didn't have a lot around him besides, your Reggie Wayne. But even then, when Reggie Wayne wasn't there, Andrew Luck still lit it up, even on
T.Y.
one leg
Hilton.
or T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, but still not household names that you would
Mhm.
know without Andrew Luck getting them the ball. And to see him hang it up as early as he did was really unfortunate, but I also understood it because the Colts did nothing to help him in the long term remain healthy and successful in the long term, you know? So I do think you're going to see a lot more of this going forward where guys aren't going to be able to hang on as long as they want to. You're not going to there's no way you're going to see your Brett Favre's, your Brady's. Like Brett Favre, as much as I hate him personally, he was a miracle for that age that he played into because of where he started, where there weren't the flags you got now, and then to
Yep.
play as long as he did into where we were. Um, but I think you're gonna see a lot less of that going forward. What do you got for me? You got anybody that surprised you with early retirements?
Andrew Luck is, for me is obviously the number one choice, but Luke Kuechly's a guy that comes to mind. I was actually pretty stunned when he retired. I didn't think that even he was even that old at that point. I want to say he was in his late 20s when he did that. But Andrew Luck, the thing for me is like if it doesn't have it in him anymore, I'd much rather see him do that than try to hang on and play when he's clearly not in it in quotes, like mentally, physically, all of that. And, the disgraceful thing that the Colts did, booing him off the field when he wasn't there, knowing that somebody spoiled his retirement. He wasn't able to announce it himself. He was still
Yeah,
there and he was going to do it, I think, the next day. That was an absolute disgrace. But I got a lot of respect for Andrew Luck to be able to make that decision and then to commit to it, like not getting another year or two later and being like, oh man, I made a mistake. I'm coming back. I'm going to try to come back. And then, either be a shell of yourself or find a way to get yourself hurt. Um, but so yeah, especially with the CTE stuff going around, you see all these guys, these athletes that are passing away, and you're finding out, yeah, their brains were really, really, really beat up. And I think this generation is more educated when it comes to that. Obviously, there's been a lot of research and stuff done to bring that to light, and I think that that's great that these athletes are making that decision to preserve their quality of life later because what are you chasing when you get to a point? Yeah, you want to win a Super Bowl, but at what cost? These guys are making more money than any of the NFL athletes in the past have ever made. The
yeah.
league is continuing to just grow, grow, grow. Why would you sacrifice any of that? And then on another aspect of it, you got guys that are managing their money well, like Rob Gronkowski, who never touched any of his salary when he played. He only spent the money that he would earn from his sponsorships and his endorsements and all of that. If you got somebody that's taking care of your money, what's the point? What's the
Yeah.
point? I mean, especially somebody like Gronk, like dude won everything. He established himself as one of the greatest to ever play at the position. And what are you chasing to play into your late 30s? I will say this, and I want to get your thoughts on it. With the way the game has trended, with all the player safety rules that you're putting in and all the tackling rules and everything, do you find it odd that players are still retiring earlier, where the longevity may not be there as it was, a decade, 2 decades ago? Do you think they're trying to make the game safer, but these players are still making the decisions for themselves to, exit earlier than you would expect?
Uh Not really. Like I said, I think it's you have to look at the scope of everything rather than just the advancement in safety that they've gone to. But you look at like you touched on, you go back 20 or 30 years ago, and the guys that played in the NFL then more likely probably couldn't hang it in today's NFL with the size, the strength, the
Hmm.
speed. I mean, could you imagine Tyreek Hill on the same field as like the 1960 Packers or something like that? Like
Yeah.
he would run literal
The guy's
circles around
smoking and
those guys.
drinking beers on the
That,
bench.
that's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, Joe Namath, what, having a cigarette or a cigar at half,
Hmm.
whatever that, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So I look at all aspects of it. And while the medical field and everything else is so much more advanced now, where these guys can have the longer careers that they if they want to, it's also very difficult to see. Like, I look at Patrick Willis, right? He was one of the best linebackers I think I've ever seen play the game. The ferocity that he played with and how hard he hit and everything. And I'm pretty sure he retired under 10 years in the league.
7 seasons.
7 seasons. But I still consider
Or
him one of the
8,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, he but I still consider him one of the greatest linebackers of all time, because it was just watching him on the field, he was a game changer. And could he have played more? Probably, but did he want to play more? Maybe he was just checked out, or his body was, telling him, you know what, hey Patrick, you got the rest of your life to live. Like, it's time to hang it up. And then again, just really quickly to touch on the big popular names, everybody knows Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. Those were guys that everybody else thought could, do so much more. And they just said, you know what? My time's up. So it is what it is. So I don't think the trend's going to end anytime soon. But you never know. I mean, maybe we're on the cusp of seeing Patrick Mahomes play for 30 years, as much as I don't want to see that. It could potentially happen. So
No way.
but moving on to somebody who deserves to not play anymore, really quickly, Burgess, did you see the news about Xavier Howard come out recently?
I did. I no respect for a guy like that.
No.
And then this explains why he was released
Yep.
when he was. And, at that point, the guy's never going to return to the NFL when you have that kind of stuff going on. I don't want to get into what he did or anything like that. You all listening want to go just Google his name, you'll find out. But yeah, guy got what he deserved.
I just find it really quickly. I just find it unfortunate because he was a hell of a corner.
Oh yeah.
And I was very, very surprised. I was on that list of shocked people that when I saw that Miami was cutting him, and then the report that came out explaining the situation, like you said, we will not get into. I wish he could be banned from the NFL. But anyway, good riddance. Goodbye, Xavier Howard. I won't miss you in the division. Goodbye.
Nope.
Later. See you never. But speaking of other things that are interesting going on in the NFL right now, did you also see the Lions had to forfeit an OTA practice? Is there any other team in the NFL that would have shocked you less than the Lions being forfeiting a practice because of all things, contact issues in the offseason? Look at their head coach. The guy wants to run through a brick wall every time he opens his
Break
mouth.
kneecaps.
Of course they're going to forfeit a practice in the offseason because of contact issues. That's like saying water's wet.
It's probably well earned. It was probably well earned.
Oh yeah.
They probably were like, whatever, we'll give you an extra day off if you guys just have your pads. And we're like, okay. The players probably agreed to it. They probably agreed to it. Like
100%.
Let's play some real football.
Players were like, yep, let's go. Pads right now, middle of freaking June, when it doesn't matter in the slightest. Let's go beat the shit out of each other on the field. I love it. That's a coach I want to play for. Let's forfeit practices all day long.
Absolutely.
But speaking of forfeiting practices, Aaron Rodgers, our good old buddy for the New York Gang Green, unexcused no-show for Jets mandatory camp. Burgess, give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, he was there for all of the voluntary portions of the offseason. And now he decides it's mini camp. He doesn't want to show up. They're going to fine him. He's going to get fined for it. And we talked a little bit about this before we started recording. And you have some thoughts. I won't spoil your thoughts on it, but like, doesn't surprise me with this dude. Like, this dude you can never pin him down and understand like what's going through his head. He's so erratic. And maybe it was coordinated and somebody dropped the ball and it didn't make it to the right people and all that. But at the end of the day, it's Aaron Rodgers. You can never really trust what actually comes out of it.
Aaron Rodgers is bouncing off of last week. I feel like he's almost like the Kyrie Irving of the NFL. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
He kind of is.
And I mean that, like, I don't really have anything against Aaron Rodgers personally. Like, I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game.
Mm-hmm.
His talent alone, he should like realistically, he should have 5 or 6 rings just based
Easy.
off of his pure
Easy.
talent to be able to throw the ball, run, read defense. Like all his intangibles are just off the charts. That being said, I don't know with the teams that he's been on whether that would have been possible. Blah 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 blah. Another whole rabbit hole to go downhill. Possibly next week when we maybe break down the NFC North. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers. It's just, dude, just do what you're supposed to do. You're 40 something, right? Like he's 40 at this point. He's coming off a torn Achilles. You have all the hopes and dreams of all those New York Jet fans hanging on you. And it's just like, show up to fucking camp, dude. Just do what you got to do. I don't understand it's your job. What is he? Is he like hiding in another blacked out
Ayahuasca hut.
tent or
Ayahuasca hut.
something? Yeah, whatever clown show he's doing, like smoking weed and just hiding in blackout spaces and meditating. I don't know. The dude should just be an Eskimo at this point and go to Antarctica and just go the fuck away, as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand when you have that much talent that you have to be that dopey, is the best way I can describe Aaron Rodgers at this point. But I don't know whether it was excused, unexcused. Nothing surprises me with this guy anymore. And I hope for our Patriots' sake that he continues the clown show into the season and the Jets
Yes.
finish below the Patriots. I mean, I don't think it'll happen because they're too talented to not be a
Yeah.
decent team this year. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's unfortunate because I'd love to. You look at like your other all-star quarterbacks, like your Peyton Manning's, as much as I can't stand him as a Pats fan, like he was one of the greatest quarterbacks, but he also was as intelligent enough to be a stand-up guy for the most part that you saw off the field as well, where you didn't have all the drama, all the bullshit. I mean, the guy took the highest road possible when the Colts cut him. And then you got prima donnas like Aaron Rodgers, like, I don't want to play for Green Bay no more. Trade me. Meh. Like
When a guy doesn't talk to his family, it's kind of a red flag that should pop up.
big
I
old
can't
red
wait. I
flag.
can't wait. I can't wait for him to just go away. I'll be happy when he retires, just because I just don't like listening and hearing about him anymore. I'm just over it. I'm over it. And of course, he's in the division. So, like you, I agree. I hope the clown show continues to the off season or to the real season, to the regular season. So we'll see.
Sure.
But Aaron Rodgers wasn't the only guy to skip mandatory minicamp as
He wasn't.
opened up.
He
Shocking,
wasn't.
right? Shocking, right?
No way. Tell me, who
So-
didn't show up?
Just a few of the names. Amari Cooper did not show up for the Browns.
Mhm.
Christian Wharf didn't show up for the Bucks.
Yep.
T. Higgins didn't show up for the Bengals. CeeDee Lamb didn't show up for the Cowboys. And Brandon Ayuk wasn't there for the 49ers. Now, I don't really know much about Tristan Wirfs. I know he's a lineman, but I don't know really much about his situation. But speaking for Higgins, Lamb, and Ayuk specifically, those guys are very much holding out for a contract. CeeDee Lamb atop that list because he just saw what Justin Jefferson just got
Yep.
from the Vikings, and he's like, I want that money, and I'm not going to show up till he gets it. So I think CeeDee Lamb ultimately is going to get it. I don't think we're going to see him at all until he gets that pen to paper on any of that. What are your thoughts on these guys not showing up?
I mean, not surprising. It's all receivers for the most part, except for Wharf, obviously, who I'm sure he's a left tackle and wants his big money to be able to protect Baker Mayfield and did his job when Brady was down there and won a ring and everything. So he's looking for his payday. I can't blame him. But as for the receivers, I look across the board, and the biggest thing with a lot of those receivers is that, maybe the argument can be made for Cooper and maybe Ayuk, but like you look at like CeeDee Lamb is above and beyond like the guy on that list that needs to be paid. Higgins, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but he's second fiddle to Jamar Chase. Ayuk, the argument can be made, but I'd rather have Deebo Samuel personally. And then Cooper, I mean, yeah, I guess he's probably the number one for the Browns, right? Do they have?
Yeah.
They don't really have much else besides him. If I'm mistaken, I apologize. But either way, Cooper's not a young cat anymore. So I mean, obviously he's got to get his money where he's due. But like, if Cooper doesn't play for the Browns, Deshaun Watson's not going to have much to throw to. But I look at that list real quick though, and I mean, take away CD Lamberge. Would Cooper, Higgins, or Ayuk interest you at all in a potential trade for the Patriots? Just
Yes.
hypothetical. Well, which
Yes.
one would you take? Which one would you take
If I'm
if you
picking out of
if you
those
had to pick?
three,
Yeah,
again, price, the price isn't involved in this at all. If I
yeah,
was going to pick one guy, I want Brandon Ayuk. He'd be the guy I'd want.
really.
Yep.
Wow.
I
I
love what
almost
he
think
brings.
I almost think I would go with Cooper.
He's probably be my second choice because he's more of a veteran, established guy,
Yeah,
a little older. So
but he's got the track record, both
see,
between the
yeah,
Raiders,
yeah,
Cowboys, and what he's done with the Browns. Like
yeah.
I always love scooping him up in fantasy because he's good for like a 200-yard game out of
Hmm.
nowhere. Where 99% of the time I feel like I don't start him because he sucks the rest of
Hmm.
the season. But then he always has that mystical game where he's just like, hey, I'm going to catch 14 targets and go off for 263 yards out of nowhere and 5 touchdowns. It's like, oh, okay, cool, cool. But yeah, I mean, the big trade value market is going to be there for those guys if they're not able to get deals done. So I'm very curious to see if they're all going to end up playing for the teams that they're holding out for.
Yeah, same here. Same here. So we'll be following that closely as the off season progresses.
Yeah.
But let's move on to a little bit more fun stuff. The cover athlete for Madden 25. Us here at BTP, we're big gamers as well. I'm a huge Madden player. I know Hogan has not been involved in Madden very much lately, but I always get sucked in. I say I'm not going to buy it, and I end up buying it every year. I'm one of those suckers because I love playing them. CMC, we just talked about him last week of getting a massive contract extension, very well deserved. Gets the cover of Madden 25. Should you be worried if you're a CMC fantasy football owner going into next season because of I guess it's been debunked a bit, but the Madden curse that has affected so many of the athletes over the decades that athletes have been on the cover. I know the past, few years it hasn't really been a real major contributing piece to downfalls of athletes, but it is still there. It's still a possibility. Should we be concerned? And what do you think about CMC being on the cover?
Well,
What do you
first and
think?
foremost, I want to say that I called it. Our good buddy Tommy put out a poll that said
He
who
did.
he thought that was going to be on the cover
I
of
think I did
Madden.
too. I think I did too.
And yours truly was immediately like CMC, hands down. It's Madden's become so typical where it's either like the offensive player of the year or the MVP is always going to be on the cover. So
Mhm.
as soon as I saw his little poll there, I was like CMC in a landslide. That being said, I guess you could really look at the rest of his career as kind of the Madden
I know.
curse, right? I
I
mean, he's
know.
been injured every other year besides this last year. So I mean, if he ends up getting hurt this year, can't really say it's Madden curse at this point because he just gets hurt every other year, it seems like.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I do truly, like I said, to touch on last week, I truly hope that he stays healthy because he
Yeah.
makes the game so much fun to watch when he is healthy and the stuff that he does on the field. But yeah, no, hats off to him. I mean, enjoy your spot on the Madden cover and I hope you don't get hurt. It's the best I can say at this point, right?
Yep. Well, continuing with the theme of Madden and football video games, we have another edition of BTP Goats for you. And it's going to be another fun one. For me personally, this is probably my favorite topic to talk about because
Oh,
it
snap.
combines football and gaming, which we're big nerds, so it's huge. But
Let's
we are gonna
do it.
rank our top 5 football video games of all time.
Let's go.
Cannot wait to get into this one. I'm gonna start. We'll do like how we usually do it. We'll go 5 to 1, and then we'll throw in our honorable mentions at the end. Um, so I'll go first. Number 5, NFL Street. Now, a lot of
Ooh.
people that younger listeners may not have played this one because there weren't many. I think there was 2 of them. I think there was NFL
Yep.
Street and NFL Street 2. I'm talking about the original one on the good old reliable PlayStation 2 console. This game was a blast. It was 3-on-3 football. You pick, yeah, it was licensed by the NFL, so you had actual players in it, and you basically picked. I think was it 3-on-3? It wasn't 3-on-3, was
It
it?
wasn't 3 on, it was like 7-on-7, but it was like
Okay.
weird. It was like almost like arena football kind of
And you
like
would be able to
rules.
pick you'd be able to pick your players from your team, and you could combine, like, for example, if you're the Patriots, you could have Tom Brady, out there, and you could have Vince Wilfork on offense playing, and Ty Law catching passes. It was a blast. It was an arcade style game,
Yep.
and the animations and the behind the back passes, the crazy runs, the was it the game breaker where you were pretty much unstoppable once you hit a certain amount of points in the game. It was just an absolute blast to play when you want to just log on and play a couple of games or whatever. I had an absolute blast playing NFL Street. I don't think I could bring it back now. I think it would kind of ruin the nostalgia of it. I'll still plug in my PS2 and play it. I don't care. I have it. I still have it. I'll plug it in and play it from time to time. But yeah, so for me, NFL Street number 5. Hogan, what do you got?
All right. For me personally, I'm going to go the route of, and full disclosure for our listeners, we decided not to lump Madden into its own pool. We decided to do the specific years because
Mhm.
there's so many different iterations of Madden at this point that I went to Madden 2003 for me, which was, I believe it was Marshall Falk that was on the cover of that one. And yeah, and that was the game that really taught me football more so than anything, because obviously I was a fan of football before that with watching the Patriots in the 90s, obviously when they had their Super Bowl run and lost to Green Bay, but then, going forward, and then just when I started playing football and trying to figure out like the different plays, routes, all that kind of stuff, just Madden '03 has a special place in my heart because it really like taught me stuff that I didn't know, obviously, besides what my coaches showed me. Because I was a fatty, I was a lineman. I was just told, push the guy in front of you and do this on this play. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. But then, getting the full scope of like, hey, a receiver runs this route for this reason and tries to do this to this corner, and then the quarterback's looking in this direction for this. And it's just Madden '03, even though as archaic as it looks now with your polygons and your pixels and all that, and I don't even I'd probably throw up looking at the graphics now today, but I owe a lot to Madden '03, and that was really the beginning, like, stage. Like we're gonna go essentially from 5 right into 4 now because I'm gonna kind of use this as a springboard. My number 4 pick is NFL Blitz.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's a big difference, right? From Madden '03, where it was like really realistic football, what's football's supposed to be, as opposed to the absolute ridiculousness that NFL Blitz was. And don't get me wrong, I loved NFL Blitz. Like there's a reason why it's ahead of Madden '03 for me, because it's just the pure stupid fun you have playing NFL Blitz. My buddy in college, I think we ended up playing this so many times where the final score would be like 93 to 84 or something ridiculous. Just Drew Bledsoe chucking the ball to Terry Glenn, getting 90-yard touchdowns every 13 seconds, power bombing guys after the play. It was like, could you pick a more ridiculous game than NFL Blitz? But like, it was such a great game for kids in that day and age to like sink their teeth into,
Mhm.
to really get in and learn football, learn players for football and whatnot. So yeah, give me NFL Blitz at number 4. Burgess, what do you got?
So my number 4, I have Madden 64. Now this was the first football video game that I ever owned. I got it for a birthday or for Christmas back. I don't know, dude. I had to have been like 8, 7 years old. It was my first real exposure to playing football. It was right around the time the Patriots went to the Super Bowl in '96 when they lost to the Packers. So I was really kind of coming into the fandom for football. And this game didn't even have them as they didn't even have like the team name, like the like the Patriots. It didn't have that. They were Foxborough. They were called Foxborough in that game. And they
Probably
had
couldn't
Green
fit in the
Bay.
game.
A lot of the players in this game didn't even have their names. They
Of
were
course.
just like quarterback number 11, like unlike I don't want to say it was unlicensed, but like it came out at a time like when the N64 had just came out.
Yep.
And I just remember playing that game so religiously. The animations for guys diving, they basically would just like lay out and they would be like arms forward, and you would just see like if you dove and you missed, they would just basically like fall over. It used to crack me up, and you had the crowd chanting, and it was like real football, and it
Yep.
again my first exposure to it. And for me, I'm a very nostalgic person, as I've said multiple times on here. It just holds a special place in my heart. I still have it. I still have it here at my house.
Let's go.
I haven't booted it up in a while, but I think I'm gonna have to because, like I said, just brings back all those memories when I was a young child getting into being a massive football fan. Without that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. So, number 4, Madden 64. Number 3, I got what you had at number 4, and that's NFL Blitz.
Oh shit.
So, again, arcade style, ridiculous animations like NFL Street, but I think it was magnified. Like, it was
Mm.
magnified. You could absolutely destroy somebody, and it kind of gave you the sense that football was that violent sport. Like, people could get killed playing it. And I always remember not so much playing on a console, but at the hockey rink where I grew up playing, they had the big console of
Arcade.
NFL Blitz. So we would be there like before practice, like playing against each other, like with the joystick and the buttons, and you'd be button mashing and just playing, putting quarters in. And for me, that was like we had so many battles doing that. And again, nostalgia. Nostalgia is what writes all of this for me because those were formidable years for me playing video games, and football's right at the forefront of it. So NFL Blitz, dude, I may have to grab a copy of that for one of the old systems I have to be able to play it again because it kind of reminds me of like NBA Hang Time and NBA Jam, like the same type of game where it's just like completely unrealistic representation of the game, but it was an absolute blast to play it. So NFL Blitz I have at number 3. Hogan?
Excellent, excellent. For my number 3, kind of a similar arcadey type feel game because compared to Madden, it was the little brother to Madden. ESPN 2K5 is my number 3 pick. This was, I think, the last generation of the NFL ESPN 2Ks because after I believe it was after this game came out
Mhm.
that Madden officially got the license to the NFL, and so there cannot be an NFL game that is not made by EA Sports that cannot be Madden, which is very unfortunate as far as I'm concerned because I think competition is good, especially in the video game market where you get the same dog shit product year in and year out that I believe Madden has become. Sorry, I don't want to make you butthurt, Verge. That's just my feelings on it.
I'm a sucker. I know it.
But anyway, ESPN 2K5, the big selling point I think a lot of people got drawn into this was I think it was like a $20 price tag compared to like the $60,
Mhm.
$50 that Madden was. It had a TO doing his one-handed catch with the Eagles on the cover there. And it was an interesting game, right? It played a lot differently from Madden, and it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, the cool stuff was you could select the different players and they could do like different moves or whatever. I remember I
Mhm.
used to play as Seymour all the time with the Patriots and just swim move and just get like 17 sacks in a game. It always felt great for me to do that. But just the stark difference and then the little highlights at halftime where you heard Berman coming in and just breaking down the highlights of different
Mhm.
plays with the guys playing in that game was just it's such a good breath of fresh air from what you always got from your day in and day out with Madden with the Madden, saying his idiot catchphrases that he always does or whatever. But yeah, ESPN. I'd love to see at some point them bring it
Mhm.
back. I don't know if it'll ever be possible because they're probably way too busy focused on their NBA 2K, which they make a bazillion dollars on.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to get into that right now because Madden does the same thing with their Ultimate Team. But yeah, give me ESPN 2K5 for number 3. Burgess, are we down to number 2 for you now?
Number 2, yep.
What do we got? What do we got for 2?
I'm gonna echo a lot of what you just said because I have ESPN 2K5 there. This wasn't a
Well, look at
game
that.
this wasn't a game that I played a whole heck of a lot, um, but I remember the presentation in this game,
Mhm.
like you touched on with Berman and the ESPN branding that was involved with it. It made you feel like it was real,
Yeah.
and that was that's the whole point of those games back then was franchise mode. They've kind of taken that out, obviously, like you just said, with the cash cows that the Ultimate Team game modes bring. But the franchise mode, it just felt real. It felt like a true simulation type environment. And for me, like a lot of people say that ESPN 2K5 is the greatest sports game of all time ever made. Like there's a lot of people out there that will say that. Like I said, it wasn't one that I played like die hard, but when I did play it, I felt like just immense in it, and it made you
Mhm.
feel like you were playing like an actual NFL game. And I'm like you, I would love to see EA get rid of lose the exclusive. It's not going to happen
No.
because I think they just signed on again.
Ugh.
Um, I think 2K is releasing an NFL or a football game, but it's not licensed, so you're not gonna have a lot of the same, like, simulation type environments. It's gonna be more of an arcade style
Yeah.
game, which is, it's cool. I'll probably try to play it, but again, I play those games because I want to simulate like managing a real team. And ESPN 2K5 had that real feel to it, and something that a lot of football gamers are longing to see again. Who you going to?
Number 2 for me, actually, I'm going with Madden 2005. And I know this is kind of a this is one that I think I might have played the most out of any Madden for. The infamous one with Ray Lewis on the cover, and the big reason I remember that is because it was the introduction to what I think is the greatest Madden design of all time, and I'm talking about the hit stick.
Oh yeah.
That was just that was the ultimate game changer playing Madden, was when you were playing defense and you just lined a guy up and you absolutely just went nuts and just did that hit stick animation on the opposing team was just the coolest thing to see. And if you forced a fumble or you got the guy injured, obviously, in the game fantasy world, it was like that bone crunching hit where you were like, "Oh shit." Like, it was so cool to do that. And I just remember my buddies and I playing Madden '05 over and over again, especially with like I said, with the introduction of the hit stick, when you played those mini camp little drills where you had like the running back and the linebackers trying to
Oh
line up
yeah.
the Oklahoma drills. Oh, I went to town. I went to town where I wanted to be the linebacker every single time so I could just fuck up that running back coming up the middle. It was such a good feeling laying the hit stick on them. So Madden '05 has got a special place in my heart because it is just, to this day, I think it's probably my favorite Madden of all time. And that's what I got at number 2. I'm gonna take off and go right into my number 1 here. You already touched on it. It was your number 5, actually. But what I'm gonna go with NFL Street Dos. Number
Oh.
2. So number 1 was an interesting one because it had Ricky Williams on the cover, and
Mhm.
it was the introduction to that arcade style one. But NFL Street 2, I think it had Jeremy Shockey on the cover back when he played for the Giants. That's how long ago this
I
was.
forgot about him.
I forget. Trust me, a lot of people forget about him for good reason. But anyway, NFL Street 2 was just the ultimate feel good game for football, where you could do the most ridiculous things with running on the wall for like juking out guys. You could do wall grabs, like wall jumps and catches. The ridiculous behind the back passes, I'm pretty sure was in this game. And I remember being inspired. I mean, again, I was a fatty, so I never had aspirations to play quarterback, but like I would go outside with a football and try and throw it behind my back like they did in the video game to see how far I could throw it, just for shits and giggles. And it was so
Yeah.
much fun to do. So NFL Street 2 was my MVP, is my OG, just awesome video game. And the one thing that I'll leave off, the reason that it sticks with me so much, is because I remember the game breaker that you touched on with the like NFL Street 1, when they did the little cut scene in NFL Street 2, you could do like the crazy plays. And I remember I always used to have Teddy Bruschi, who, spoiler alert, is my favorite football player of all time. I would make him play center when he was on offense. And the specific game breaker that I would always love more than anything was he would hike the ball and everybody would go crazy tackling everybody, and the center had the football the whole time, and it would just be Brewski. It was a center sneak, and it was the greatest fucking thing ever. And I always used to tell my coaches in high school, like, can we please put in a center sneak? We have to put in a center sneak for me because I played center for a really long time. And I was like, can I just please do that? And they're like, no, Hogan, you're fat. You can't do that. It's not going to work. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. But just seeing Teddy Bruschi take off for like a 60-yard touchdown, being untouched as a center, running for with that, was just, that's NFL Street for me. That's why it's my OG greatest MVP. Number 1 for me. Burgess, who is your number 1 video game, football game of all time?
Madden 2004 with
All right.
Michael Vick on the cover. You
All
talk
right.
you touched on Madden '03 kind of being your real true intro to sports, football, Madden, video games. That
Mm.
was Madden '04 for me, the real true where I really got into it and played it. I think I borrowed it from a friend of mine for like 6 months before I had to give it back, and I bought my own copy of it. This game was played so religiously in my house. I think I played it every day when I would get home from school. Every single day. I would have Michael Vick. I would love just rolling out of the pocket and breaking a scramble for 85 yards. Pretty much every play, it was a glitch. And, the franchise mode, unbelievable. This was the year they introduced the owner mode aspect to the game.
Yeah. Yep.
You could control the prices, you could control like stadium upgrades, all of that. And for me, this is a game that I believe it or not, last year, like right before my twins were born, dude, I was playing a franchise for I played like 3 seasons of it. I would play it every night after all the kids were in bed. I would just log on and play. And that game holds up. Like, obviously playing it now, it's like the controls are a lot simpler, a lot different. There's no hit stick like you touched on with Madden 05 being the first one for that. But this game, the amount of control that a franchise mode gave you was unbelievable. And I think it might have been the first one that they really brought in the online play with the PS2. I don't know if they had that with the Madden 03, but I remember playing against people online with the headset back in like 2004, 2005, and you had people talking a lot of crap on there, and it was just fun. It was it
Yeah.
was it was it was I can't describe it any more than that. Like, it's up there on like my top games of all time, just for the amount of sheer play and fun that I got out of doing that. And it probably the reason why I'm suckered with Madden now, to be honest with you. That's when it all started. Because then after that, it was like every year I had to get it. I had to play it. And I'd love for Madden to get back to the franchise mode the way that they had it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
for me, like, this was before connected franchise. This was before any of that. So if you could combine those features into like the style that they had then, unbelievable. I think it was one of the first ones that I played too. And they actually got rid of this feature for a while and they brought it back, but like where you could trade players and you could see what teams they played for each season and their stats for that. And I was stat nerd, fantasy football player,
Yep.
stat nerd, and it was unbelievable to just participate in that. Obviously, it was the height of the Patriots' first dynasty too, so that helped things with me. But Madden 04 easily sits atop my top five, and it's not close. Personally, it's not close for me. So
Awesome.
love those lists. I'm going to give you a couple of my honorable mentions first. They are all Madden games, so for full disclosure on that, Madden 2000 was an N64 1-2 that, again, I was like probably 10, 11 years old when that came out. I think it had Pat Summerall. I think it might have been one of the last years Pat Summerall
Oh
did
yeah.
it
Yep.
with John Madden. And it was more the same type of, the cartridge game, and it just, again, holds a special place in my heart. So that's why I have it there. Madden 02, which was the year prior to Tom Brady being in the game. I loved the introduction to the players at the beginning of the game where they were coming out of the tunnel. The music that played with it when I was a 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid, dude, it was jacked me up. I'm like, let's go. I want to play some Madden. Let's go. QB number 12 was on the Patriots that year. Full
Yep.
disclosure.
Yep.
So that one, and then Madden 2016, that one holds a place in my heart because that was the year that you, myself, and our good friend Marky had. We played what, 10 years of a franchise,
Oh,
and
something stupid like
it was
that.
stupid. And we would, it was appointment stuff. Like, we'd play every day. Every day after work, we would be catching up and making sure that we advanced the week so we could play our franchise. And we'd have Super Bowl battles. I'd end up breaking a controller because you'd find a way to beat me, and I'd get so mad. And I think I beat you a couple times, but there's a few of them that I vividly remember getting so angry that I want to just chuck my controller across the room, and my wife's looking at me like, "You need to calm down, bro. It's just a game."
That's
Yeah,
funny. I don't ever remember getting that mad playing against you. So I must have beaten you a whole lot of times if that's the
you
case.
would, but I took it very seriously, dude. I would get like freaking into it. Like, I'd be on my phone on the app looking like, "Oh, what players can I sign? Scout those rookies when I'm at work." Like, that's how into it I was. That's why that one holds a special place in my heart.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough. Well,
those are my three.
going to my honorable mentions, I wanted to throw just a couple in here. Obviously, Tecmo Bowl, which, full disclosure, I'm not that ancient where I did not play the Tecmo Bowl, but I've heard the stories about Bo Jackson just being essentially Michael Vick before Michael Vick on Madden 04, where if you had Bo Jackson, it was like automatic touchdowns every time you played with him on there. So got to throw it back, give a shout out to the OG football video
Mhm.
game Tecmo Bowl. And then the other one I have on there is Madden 08. which I had a lot of fun playing. Had my boy Vince Young on the cover his rookie year, or was it after his rookie year? Either way, when he was with Tennessee and he lit it up in the NFL. And I remember the reason why I liked Madden '08 so much was because I think that was the first time that I really took NCAA football and brought a guy all the way through college, drafted him into the NFL for like that year in Madden, and then, played his career throughout there. So it's like, take my college guy who won the Heisman like 3 times on defense, which is ridiculous, and then make him go to like the Saints and set the sack record with like 47 sacks in his rookie year or something insane like that. But had a lot of fun with the Madden games, had a lot of fun in general with all those video games. So yeah, this was a fun list to do. I always enjoy talking this stuff with you. So this was great to do.
Absolutely. And there'll be more BTP goats coming in the future. Don't worry. If you got your thoughts, get us on Twitter after you listen to the episode. If you got your thoughts on our rankings, if you got any we left out that we shouldn't have left out, call us out for it. Especially call out Hogan because he enjoys interacting with people like that. So
that's true. I'll yell right back at you. That's what I'm good at. So I mean, I make enemies as well as I make friends on Twitter these days, or whatever social media I got to scream at you with. So come at me, bro.
Hogan, what do we got? What do we got on tap next week?
So next week, spoiler alert, she was supposed to join us this week. A good streamer friend of mine, B12, a noted cheesehead, a Packer fan, was supposed to join us for a breakdown of the NFC North, but schedule conflicts came up. It's been resolved. We're going to have her joining us next week to break down the NFC North. She's already talking. So I messaged her today just to confirm the schedule. She already told me, she's like, I'm not talking to you until next week because I'm preparing my defense for why this is going to be like the best division in the football and all this. And I was just like, I sent her the classic like Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix where he's like, come at me, like let's go, let's do this. So I'm excited for her to join us next week and talk NFC North. We're going to talk about the Packers, Bears, Lions, Vikings. It's going to be a great time with her, and I can't wait for all of you to hear it. But in the meantime, until then, we also have Rings and Things going on as well. All this video game talk. I gotta plug I gotta plug the podcast again. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, Rings and Things is the new podcast from Midnight Ride Productions that I'm hosting along with our good friend Ace. And we did not have a new episode this week. Our first episode dropped last week. It's a bi-weekly show, so we're gonna take a week off in between. But if you love video games and you love all this nerdy stuff, tech stuff, pop entertainment, whatever, we got it in Rings and Things. I'm sure I'll be dropping Madden stuff at some point. Actually, I think I talked about Madden in the first episode, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, if you get a chance, go listen to Rings and Things. It's just more good old fashioned nerdy video game stuff, and it's the best. And if you enjoy this show, I absolutely guarantee you'll enjoy that show. So go check it out when you get a chance.
Ace is on there too. So, I got to deal with both of you on different shows. You can get them both on one show.
That's on you.
Without me.
That's on you.
That's the best thing.
You're coming. You're guest appearing a whole bunch.
I will be guest appearing at some point, but you get the best of both worlds. You hate listening to me. You can go listen to the two of them talk just to each other. So
it's the best of the best, baby.
Yeah. Well, I think that just about does it for episode 34, Breaking the Plane. I don't have any final thoughts. Do you?
I don't think so. I think we touched on everything we want to talk about this week.
Love it. Have yourselves a great week. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.
Later.